Hello and welcome to Clash of the Dice, and in this episode, again, it's just me, so I'll be doing another solo game of Tiny Epic Galaxies by Gameling Games. And in this episode I'm going to be doing the easy level, so that's one level up from beginner. Let's see how we get on. Right, so we're set up for the next level of difficulty for Tiny Epic Galaxies Solo, which is the easy rogue galaxy of Rothkel. So it's slightly more difficult than beginner, but not horrendously hard. There are a few changes that make it more difficult, so the maximum energy and culture that gets achieved before it can either take an extraction with 3 dice or upgrade is now 5 instead of 6. The attacks are slightly different as well, but you'll see those as we go through. I am still the yellow pieces and the rogue galaxy is the red pieces. The reason I'm using the blue mat instead of the yellow mat is because the easy rogue galaxy of Rothkel is printed on the back of the yellow game mat, and I didn't want to confuse you, or more importantly confuse myself, by switching to the blue pieces. So I'm sticking with the yellow pieces, just using the blue mat. If you haven't seen the first video, I do encourage you to check it out, because that will explain briefly what we're all about. I don't want to explain the sort of the basic intricacies of the game all over again, so I'm just going to crack on with the game and let's see how we get on the next level of difficulty. So I'm going to start with my 4 dice. And we've got a couple of launcher rockets, we've got a colony, and we've got advanced economy. So I'm going to use the colony die to upgrade. It's always best to do that as soon as you can, so that will cost me 2 energy. I'm going to launch a rocket and go into orbit around Zavodnik, and try and get an early lead on him on that one by using the economy to advance 1 space around. I've got another launcher rocket, and I'm going to launch a rocket and land on this planet, Terabithia, and other players advance a ship +1, then you advance a ship +2. He hasn't got any ships, so I get to advance +2. So, good start for me. Moving on to Rothkel's first turn. Die number 1 is a launcher rocket, so he goes into orbit around the leftmost planet. Die number 2 is an attack. I lose an energy, but I haven't got any to lose, so that's fine. Die number 3 is a culture. He gains 3 culture. 3 rocket ships on a culture space. Die number 4. Advanced diplomacy, which he can't because he's on an economy track. Die number 5. Another diplomacy, which he can't use. So, as far as I'm concerned, that was a good turn. I'm now up to 5 dice because I'm now on level 2. I've got 1 victory point. Rothkel has got 0 victory points. So, here we go, next turn for me. We've got to launch a rocket, we've got a couple of diplomacies, we've got a culture, and we've got a colony. I think what I'm going to do is, it's a shame I can't go from the planet to orbit, otherwise I would, and try and get a head start on this 7-pointer. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a rocket and move to this track here, and move 2 spaces around this orbit. Again, try and get a bit of a head start. So neither of these 2 dice I can use, so free reroll. And we've got an energy, which I'll use and gain 2 energy. And we've got a colony die, which I can't use because I haven't got enough energy to upgrade, and I haven't got any colony abilities. So that's the end of my turn. Over to Rothkel, die number 1. He gets to advance economy. So I'm going to spend a culture and follow that to make sure I stay well ahead of him. I've just run out of culture, so I now can't follow him for the rest of the turn. Die number 2. He gets to launch a rocket, so he goes into orbit on this 5-pointer. Die number 3. He advances economy again. Die number 4. He gains 2 more culture, which means at the end of the turn he'll get 3 more dice. Die number 5. Launch another rocket. Goes into orbit on Terabithia, the 7-pointer. That's not good for me because I don't want him to get 7 points. So reset that to 0 and he gets 3 more dice. Die number 1. Here's an energy. So he gets 1, 2, 3, 4 energy. So he's getting close to upgrading already. Die number 2. Another energy, there you go, is upgraded. Or he will do at the end of this sequence. Die number 3. And he gets some more culture again, but this time only one, because he's only got one rocket ship on a culture space. So that's the end of his turn. He has now upgraded, so that gets set to 0, and any future attacks I lose culture. Alright, so my turn. 5 dice. You've got a couple of diplomacies, you've got a culture, an energy, and a colony. So I shall use the energy to generate 2 energy. I can now upgrade at the cost of 3 energy, so 1, 2, 3, which gives me my 3rd rocket ship. I'm going to use both of these diplomacy to advance 1, 2, oops, on this track, and then I've got a culture which I can't use, so I get my free reroll, which is another diplomacy. So good stuff. I advance to this one and I capture it, or rather colonise it. He captures it, I colonise, because I'm the good guys, he's the bad guys. Rocket ship returns home, I get 5 points, and we replace the card. So that was a good turn. I'm now on 7 points, he's on 1. So, die number 1 for Rothkel. He gets to advance economy, and I can't follow because I've got no culture. Die number 2. Gets to generate some culture, he gets 2. Die number 3. More culture, another 2, so he gets 3 more dice at the end of the turn. Die number 4. Oh, he's attacking me, but he can't attack me because I've got no culture to steal. Or to lose, rather, in this case. Die number 5. That's another wasted die, because he's maxed out already. So, end of the turn. Could have been worse, but he now gets 3 more dice. More culture, which is 2. Die number 2. Advances economy, so he's caught up with me on this track. So I hope the next one is not another economy. Die number 3. Talk that up. So there we go. Not content with me getting 5 points, he's going to got himself 5 points. So that's the end of his turn, and that makes the scores 7 points to me, 6 points to Rothkel. Right, my turn. 5 dice. We've got some more diplomacy. We've got to launch a rocket, we've got a culture, and we've got a colony. Let's have a look. I think we want to be getting him off this 7-pointer, so I'm going to launch a rocket, go into orbit on Terabithia, and then I can advance 2 spaces, 1, 2, and get ahead of him on the 7-pointer. Reroll these 2 because I can't use them, and we've got another diplomacy, and we've got an economy which I can't use. Now I think I will use my last energy to re-roll that and hopefully come up with something useful. And it's an energy, so that's pretty good. I'll get 3 energy. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Die number 1 for Rothkel. Still on 5 dice. It's an attack. And I've got no culture to lose. Die number 2. He advances diplomacy. I can't follow it because I've got no culture. Die number 3. Generates energy. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not so good. Die number 4. Generates culture, which is 3. 1, 2, 3. So he gets another 3 dice at the end of this turn. Die number 5. More culture, except he can't use it. Okay, so we reset that to 0. Pretty good chance he's going to upgrade again if he gets an energy. Well, he will upgrade again if he gets an energy. Die number 1 of 3. Oh, it's an attack. That's useless. Good. Die number 2. Advances diplomacy, so he's catching me up. Die number 3. Could do with a launch a rocket now to give me a bit of a breathing space. No, it's an attack. That's fine. I'll take that. So nothing happens. Good stuff. Over to my turn. Okay, we've got a couple of launch rockets, we've got a couple of energies, and we've got a culture. Culture I can't use. And he hasn't got any culture left for me to steal, so I can't land a ship there. There wouldn't be much point in that. So what I will do, I'll launch a rocket and land here. Other players advance their ship 1, then you advance your ship 2, so he advances 1 to there, but I advance 1, 2 to here. Then I am going to claim an energy, which will give me 3, 2, 3, and then I'm going to launch another rocket and land here, which is utilise the action of an uncolonised planet. So I can use this one again. He advances 1, and I advance 1, 2, but I've now got 7 points, so both of these ships come home. He goes home, and the reason I use that energy first before I launch the rocket onto this is because then I get 3 energy, which otherwise I'd have got 2, because he's now on a culture planet. So I get another 7 points. Replace that one. And we'll generate a culture, for which I'll get 1 because I've got 1 rocket on a culture planet, and then I get a free reroll. I don't want to use the energy because I'll max out on energy and I simply don't need that much, so I'm going to reroll this and see what I come up with. That's another culture, that's fine. I'll quite happily have more culture. So that's the end of my turn. I was hoping for a colony so I could upgrade, but never mind. Die number 1 for Rothgel. You can't use it. Quick update on scores before I continue, which is I'm on 14, Rothgel is on 6, so good lead at the moment. Die number 2 generates culture, so he would generate 4 culture. Die number 3 is an attack. I lose a culture. However, I am going to follow that action of using a colony die, which means I can now upgrade, and that'll cost me 4 energy. So on my next turn I get to use 6 dice. Die number 4. Diplomacy, can't use it. Die number 5. Another diplomacy which you can't use. Good stuff. Right, so my turn, and I get 6 dice. So we've got a couple of cultures, a couple of rockets, a colony, and a diplomacy. Highest one out there is a 5. If I follow my own advice, I'll be going for the one on the left. Now, first of all, I'm going to launch a rocket and land here and steal a culture from him, because he's got more than enough for his needs as it is. And then I want the points, so I'm going to launch another rocket, which will be this one, and I'm going to go in orbit around here. I will use my colony ability of others advance a ship +1, then you advance a ship +2. Again, as per earlier, he hasn't got any rockets, so I'll simply advance mine +2. I don't have any economy at the minute. So I will roll 2 of these. I'm going to keep one of these cultures, which I can use, but I'm hoping I can launch another rocket and then possibly get onto another colony planet and maximise that. So let's see what I get. This is my free reroll, and that's pretty good. I've got an energy, and I'll use that now to generate 2 more energy. Then I can launch a rocket, and there's none of the other planets that I could really do with using their abilities on. So what I'll do is I'll send this one into orbit here using this die, and then I'll generate 2 more culture. 1, 2 for these 2. So that's in my turn, pretty good turn. And an update on scores. I am now on 15, Rothkel is on 6. So die number 1 of 5 for Rothkel. It's an advanced economy. Now I could follow that, but then he gets to re-roll it, so I think I'll take the chance. So I'll follow that, but now he gets to re-roll it. Whatever this re-rolls as, I can't then follow it, because I've already followed this die. It's a culture, so he'll get 3 more dice at the end of the turn. And that's a shame I can't follow that, because I would have spent 1 to gain 2. So, die number 2. Energy, so he's going to upgrade at the end of this turn. Die number 3. More culture. He's maxed out on culture. Now again, I can follow this, and I'll spend 1 to gain 2, but I now have to re-roll this because he couldn't use it. And he still can't use it, which is good stuff. Die number 4. Advanced economy, which again he can't use, but I am going to follow. And again, he couldn't use that, so I now have to re-roll it because I followed it. And it's an attack, so I lose one of my cultures. Die number 5 is a launch a rocket, so he goes into orbit on the leftmost planet. And interesting, if I spend a culture to follow the launch a rocket, I could land on this planet and steal a culture. So the question then is, does that mean he then does not have enough culture to gain 3 extra dice? And you know what, in the spirit of thinking strategically, I'm going to say that that is the case. So I'm going to spend a culture to follow that action, because this is a different turn from my previous turn. This is his turn, so I'm going to land on that, steal a culture, and that puts him down to 4. And I think that's fair, because it's all part of the strategy of thinking your way around problems. So feel free to disagree with me, but that's the way I'm going to go for it. And believe me, as we go through the difficulty levels, you're going to need little tricks like that. So that is the end of his turn, and this resets to 0 and he goes up a level. So any future attacks he acquires 2 energy, so that makes it easier for him to upgrade in the future. He's now on 6 dice, 3 victory points, plus the 5 he's got, that puts him on 8, and I am still on 15. So my turn with 6 dice. We have got a couple of diplomacies, we've got a couple of cultures, we've got, oh no, we've got 3 cultures, and a colony. So I think I will generate some culture. 1, 2. I'm going to generate 2 more. 1, 2. That gives me 5, which means I can now upgrade. Now, do I upgrade, or do I give back myself another 5 points using the colony ability that I've got? If I do that, it'll win me the game. So yes, we do. We'll use that because I'm currently on, oh no, I'm not on 17 points, I'm on 15 points. It'll get me a lot closer to winning the game. Or do I re-roll these? Ooh, conundrums and decisions. What I will do, I will upgrade, because that will put me on 20 points. So, no it won't, it'll put me on 17 points. Dear me, my maths is shocking today. So I'm now on 17 points if I spend 5 culture. That's all my culture gone. So I'll use this culture again to generate 2 more. Oops. I can't use either of these 2 dice, so I'll re-roll these 2 for free. Aha! So we've now got some more colony dice, which means I am on 17 points. I promise you I am. I've got a 7-point planet, a 5-point planet, and I've got 5 victory points for my empire progression, so that's 17. So if I now use my colony ability of he advances a ship 1 space, I advance 2, I get another 5 points, which then puts me on 22 points, and I win. So that was a nice easy game, good stuff. So there we go, that was quite a nice easy game actually. Yeah, not a lot harder than the beginner, even though he upgrades more easily and he generates extra dice more easily. So yeah, I enjoyed that, nice easy game. I wonder how the medium level is going to be. That'll be the next video. Thank you for watching, please continue to like, comment and subscribe, and God bless.